My name is Michael Harris, and this is the story of how my only son, the boy I sacrificed everything for, mocked me, humiliated me, and stripped me of every ounce of dignity in front of his friends. It happened during what was supposed to be a peaceful camping trip, a father and son getaway. But instead of bonding, I was torn apart. I can still hear Jason's voice echoing in my ears, sharp, cruel, and dripping with arrogance. "You can't even light a fire, Dad. You're useless." Weak, pathetic. His friends burst into laughter. Their chuckles stabbed deeper than any knife. And for the first time in my life, I felt small in front of my own child. But Jason didn't know. He didn't understand who I really was. And he didn't know that very soon he would face a truth so shocking, so life-changing, that it would shatter the very image he held of me. Before I take you deeper into my story, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what happens next. I'm Michael Harris, 55 years old, a widower, a man who spent his life working with his hands, raising his son alone after his mother, my beloved wife, died when Jason was only 8 years old. I wasn't rich. I wasn't powerful. I wasn't flashy. But I gave Jason everything I could. I worked long hours at a construction site, my back bent, my hands calloused, my body breaking, just to make sure Jason never went hungry, never wore torn shoes, and never felt the absence of love. I was both mother and father to him. I cooked, I cleaned, I stayed up late helping him with homework, even when my eyes were so heavy I could barely keep them open. I thought, maybe, just maybe, he'd grow up to see me as his hero. But life doesn't always reward sacrifice with gratitude. The camping trip was Jason's idea, or rather his friends. "Come on, man," one of them had said. "Let's get away from the city. Let's rough it out. Real men stuff." Jason had smirked. "Sure, my old man can tag along. He could use some fresh air." I didn't realize then that his words carried hidden venom. We arrived at the campsite in the early afternoon. The air was crisp, pine trees surrounding us, the sound of birds echoing in the distance. I inhaled deeply, grateful for the peace of nature. But Jason wasn't looking at the beauty around him. No, he was looking at me, waiting for a chance. It came sooner than I expected. When it was time to build the campfire, Jason shoved a box of matches into my hand. "Here, Dad, why don't you show us how it's done? Or, can you even?" His friends snickered. I tried to stay calm. I crouched near the fire pit, arranging the wood carefully. My hands trembled slightly, not because I didn't know what I was doing, but because all eyes were on me, including my son's, filled with mockery. The match sputtered, fizzled out. Jason pounced. "Ha! Can't even light a fire. Guess we'll starve tonight if we rely on him." His friends laughed louder, one of them slapping Jason's shoulder in approval. I looked up at my son, the boy I raised, the boy I gave everything to, and my heart cracked. I swallowed the pain, forcing a smile. "Just give me a moment," I said softly, but Jason rolled his eyes. "Don't bother. I'll do it. We don't have all day, old man." And just like that, he snatched the matches away, striking them clumsily. After a few attempts, flames caught. His friends cheered, chanting his name. Jason smirked at me. "See, Dad? That's how a real man does it." The laughter roared around me, but inside I was silent. And bleeding. As I sat quietly watching Jason bask in the glory of his friends' admiration, memories rushed through me. Memories of him as a little boy, running to me after scraping his knee, crying out, "Daddy, help me." Memories of nights when I carried him to bed, singing lullabies his mother used to sing before she passed away. Memories of him looking up at me, wide-eyed, saying, "Dad, when I grow up, I want to be just like you." Where did that little boy go? When did he turn into this stranger? This arrogant young man who saw me not as his father, but as a weak, outdated burden? My throat tightened. Had I failed him somehow? Was I too gentle, too patient, too selfless? Or was it just the cruel way the world reshaped children, making them despise the very roots that held them up? I wanted to shout. I wanted to scream at Jason telling the truth, that I wasn't weak, that I wasn't useless, that the same hands he mocked were the very hands that built our home, paid for his education, and carried him when he was too tired to walk. But the words never came out. Instead, I sat there, silent, while my son's laughter tore through me. At that moment, I realized something painful. Jason didn't respect me. Not anymore. Maybe he never had, and nothing stings deeper than being mocked by the very child you raised with love and sacrifice. As the night grew darker, Jason continued cracking jokes at my expense. His friends chuckled, tossing me pitying glances as though I were some fragile, irrelevant relic of the past. I smiled weakly, hiding the storm inside me. But deep down, a vow began to form. I whispered it silently to myself. One day, Jason, one day you will see the truth. You will understand who I really am. And when that moment comes, it will break you. The fire crackled. Shadows danced across the campsite, and my silent pain burned brighter than the flames. That night, as I lay awake staring at the star-studded sky, I felt a tear slip down my cheek. But little did Jason know soon. Very soon his world would turn upside down. The fire crackled, casting long shadows across the forest clearing. Jason sat proudly in front of his friends, bragging about how he lit the fire, as if it were some heroic feat. Every few minutes, he would glance at me with that smirk. The smirk that said, "You're nothing." "Hey, Dad," Jason called out suddenly, tossing a branch into the flames. "You sure you don't want to try something else? Maybe you can. I don't know. Knit us a blanket instead? You're better at soft things, right?" Laughter exploded around the fire. His friends doubled over, clutching their stomachs. One of them leaned in and whispered just loud enough for me to hear. "Man, Jason, your dad's so quiet. Does he ever fight back? Or is he always this? Weak?" Jason smirked wider. "Nah, he's always like this. A softy, a pushover. He's spent his whole life hiding behind excuses. Can't fix stuff, can't fight, can't even light a damn fire." The words pierced my chest like knives. I clenched my fists under the table of darkness, nails digging into my palm, but I said nothing. You see, silence isn't weakness. Sometimes, silence is the only armor left to a man who has already been stripped of everything else. But Jason saw my silence as proof. Proof that his cruel words were true. He looked at me like I was a shadow of a man. Not the father who raised him, not the man who gave him life. Just a joke. And the worst part? I let him. Why? Because I couldn't bear to fight my own son. I couldn't bear to shout at him or humiliate him back. I kept hoping maybe tomorrow, maybe one day he would remember who I was. But that night, it felt like I had already lost him. As the boys continued to laugh, my mind wandered back years. Jason was only 10 when he begged me to take him camping for the first time. I didn't have the money for fancy gear, so I borrowed a torn tent from a neighbor. We roasted marshmallows on a broken tin can stove. Jason's eyes sparkled as he looked at me and said, "Dad, this is the best day of my life." I smiled, ruffled his hair, and told him, "Son, one day you'll be strong enough to do all this on your own." That little boy adored me. He trusted me. He looked at me as if I were his whole world. Now, years later, here he was, mocking me in front of his friends, as if I were less than a man. What changed? Was it my age? His new life in the city? Or was it just the cruel arrogance of youth? blind to the sacrifices of their parents. That night, when the boys went to sleep, their laughter echoing in my ears, I sat alone by the fire. The flames licked the air, shadows dancing across my weary face. I stared at my hands, rough, scarred, calloused. Hands that had built houses. Hands that had carried Jason when he was too tired to walk. Hands that had bled so he could eat. But in Jason's eyes, these hands were useless. For the first time in my life, I asked myself a question I had never dared to ask before. Am I really weak? Tears burned in my eyes. I bit my lip to keep from sobbing out loud, because if I cried, Jason would hear, and he would laugh again. The next morning, I hoped things would be different. Maybe the night had softened his heart. But no. Jason woke up with even more arrogance. "Dad, you look tired." "Couldn't sleep?" he asked with mock concern. Then, turning to his friends, he added, "Probably worried about all the monsters in the woods." "Don't worry, guys. I'll protect him." The boys laughed. I forced a smile, hiding the sting. I thought to myself, if only you knew, Jason. If only you knew what I've survived in these woods long before you were born. But I said nothing. Jason wasn't done. He pushed harder. While we packed our things for the hike deeper into the forest, he sneered, "Dad, maybe you should stay behind. You'll slow us down. These trails aren't for old bones." His friends chuckled again. One of them even whispered, "Man, he really doesn't respect his dad." Jason grinned proudly, as if disrespecting me made him stronger. That day, I reached my breaking point. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. Instead, I made a silent vow. I whispered it to my own heart as we walked deeper into the forest. One day, Jason, one day you'll see who I truly am. Not through words, not through arguments, but through actions. And when that moment comes, you will regret every word you ever spoke against me. As we hiked further, the forest grew darker. The tall trees blocked the sun, shadows crawling across the ground like warning signs. The air grew heavier. The wind howled through the branches. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled back. Jason and his friends laughed nervously, brushing it off. But I knew the forest well enough to recognize danger in the air. Something was coming. And Jason, my arrogant son, was about to face a truth he wasn't prepared for. By the third day of our camping trip, the forest had changed. The skies darkened earlier than usual. Thick clouds rolled over the trees, swallowing the sunlight whole. The air grew heavy with the smell of rain, sharp and metallic, like the taste of fear. Jason's friends still tried to laugh, but their voices cracked with unease. "Hey, Jason," one of them muttered nervously. "Maybe we should head back?" "That storm looks nasty," Jason scoffed. "What, afraid of a little rain? Come on, guys. Don't be like my dad, weak and paranoid." The words stung like fire in my chest. But this time, I didn't lower my eyes. I just looked up at the sky, and I knew. The storm wasn't a little rain. It was a monster waiting to break free. The first strike of thunder ripped through the forest like a cannon. The boys froze. Jason laughed nervously, but even he couldn't hide the tremor in his voice. "Relax," he muttered. "Storms don't scare me." But then the rain poured. Sheets of water slammed down, drenching us instantly. A campfire hissed and died. The forest turned pitch black, only lit by sudden flashes of lightning that carved jagged scars across the sky. Jason's friends huddled together, shivering. "Where do we go?" One shouted over the thunder. "This isn't funny anymore." Jason looked around desperately, his smirk gone. For the first time in years, I saw the same fear in his eyes he had as a boy when storms used to rattle our old roof. He turned to me. "Dad, what do we do?" The silence that followed was deafening. I could have smiled then. I could have said, "Now you see." But instead, I took a deep breath and steadied my voice. "Follow me. And stay close." Jason blinked, stunned. His friends hesitated, then rushed to my side as another bolt of lightning split the sky. The forest trails had turned to mud, slippery and treacherous. But my feet knew the way. I had walked these woods in my youth, long before Jason was even born. My father had taught me survival, and I had learned every hidden path. While the boys stumbled and cursed, I moved forward, guiding them toward a rocky overhang I remembered. "Dad, how do you know where to go?" Jason shouted. I didn't answer. Not yet. Just as we reached the overhang, a low growl echoed through the storm. The sound was deep, primal, filled with hunger. The boys froze in terror. Jason's eyes went wide. Was that a bear?" One of his friends stammered. Jason's face turned pale. He whispered, almost to himself, "Grizzly?" The same word he had once thrown at me as a joke. The irony was bitter. But I didn't laugh. "Stay quiet," I ordered firmly, pressing a finger to my lips. The growl came again, closer this time. Heavy footsteps crunched against the wet earth. Jason trembled beside me. His arrogance had vanished, replaced by something he had never admitted before, fear of his own weakness. I scanned the ground quickly. Broken branches, wet leaves, muddy tracks. The animal was close, but we still had a chance. "Listen to me," I whispered, my voice low but steady. "Do not run. Do not scream. Stay behind me." Jason opened his mouth to protest, but when his eyes met mine, he froze. For the first time in years, he didn't see weakness in me. He saw command. He saw strength. He saw a father who wasn't afraid. We crept under the rocky overhang, water dripping all around us. I gathered branches and leaves, quickly creating a small smoke fire, not for warmth, but as a warning. The smell would keep most animals away. Jason stared at me in shock. "Dad, how do you know all this?" I didn't answer. Not yet. As the storm raged outside and the growls slowly faded into the distance, I watched my son shiver in silence. His friends leaned against the rocks, whispering, their earlier laughter gone. Jason looked smaller somehow. Not the arrogant man who mocked me, but the same frightened boy I once carried on my shoulders. And I thought to myself, he still doesn't know who I am. He still thinks I'm weak. But soon he'll learn the truth. And when he does, it will shatter everything he believes about me and about himself. That night, while Jason slept, I stayed awake, listening to the storm. My mind replayed his cruel words over and over. Weak, useless, worthless. And then I remembered my silent vow. One day, Jason, one day, you will see who your father truly is. The storm was only the beginning. The forest had tested us. But the real test was yet to come. When the storm finally passed, the forest was unrecognizable. The ground was a swamp of mud and broken branches. Trees leaned, snapped like matchsticks. The air still carried the smell of smoke and rain. Jason's friends stirred, groaning. Their clothes were soaked, their stomachs empty. Jason rubbed his arms, shivering. "God, I'm starving," one of them muttered. Another kicked the mud in frustration. "This is insane. We're going to die out here." Jason looked at me, trying to hide his fear, but I could see it. His confidence was gone. And for the first time in years, all eyes turned to me. Waiting. I stood up slowly, my joints aching but my mind sharp. "Listen to me," I said firmly, my voice cutting through their panic. "If you want to survive, you follow my lead. No questions. No mocking. No hesitation." Jason blinked, stunned by the authority in my tone. His friends exchanged glances and nodded. I pointed to the ground. First, we need fire. Without it, you won't last another night. While the boys fumbled with wet matches, I scanned the forest floor. My hands moved with memory, not hesitation. I gathered dry bark from beneath fallen logs, stripping it into thin shavings. I found resin clinging to pine, sticky and flammable. I built a nest of tinder with careful precision. Jason's friends watched in silence as I struck 2 stones together, sparks flying into the shavings. Smoke curled, then flame, within minutes. A fire roared to life steady, warm, defiant against the damp world. Their jaws dropped. One of Jason's friends whispered, "How? How did you do that?" I didn't answer. Not yet. Next came food. The boys whined about hunger, clutching their stomachs. Jason muttered under his breath, "We should have brought more supplies." I ignored him. Instead, I crafted a simple spear from a branch, sharpening it against a stone. My hands didn't tremble, they remembered. Hours of my childhood spent hunting with my father came back in flashes. I moved silently into the forest, the way he taught me. When I returned, a rabbit hung from my hand. Jason's friends gasped. Jason just stared, his mouth half open. "Dad, you hunted that?" He asked quietly. I looked him dead in the eyes. "Yes, and I'll cook it too." The fire crackled, the meat roasted, and for the first time in 2 days, everyone ate. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. But inside, I thought, who's weak now? As the night grew colder, I built a shelter from branches and leaves, sturdy enough to block the wind. The boys crawled inside, sighing with relief. Jason lingered outside, staring at me as if seeing me for the first time. Finally, he asked, "Dad, how do you know all this? You've never shown me anything like this before." I stared into the fire. My reflection danced in the flames. "You never asked," I replied quietly. "When I was your age, I learned to survive in the wild. My father taught me. We had no luxuries, no shortcuts. Just strength, patience, and skill." Jason swallowed hard. "So, all this time, you knew?" I nodded slowly. "Yes, and all this time, you thought strength was about mocking people, showing off. You couldn't be more wrong." Jason sat down heavily, his arrogance crumbling piece by piece. His friends exchanged nervous glances, whispering among themselves. One of them said softly, "Jason, your dad's a legend." Jason shot him a glare, but he had no words left. His face flushed red, his jaw tight. I could see the storm raging inside him. Embarrassment, guilt, confusion. But I wasn't done. Not yet. That night, as Jason drifted into uneasy sleep, I stayed awake by the fire. I thought about all the years I had stayed silent, letting him believe I was weak. I thought about the nights I worked double shifts just to put food on the table. The times I sacrificed so he could live comfortably, never knowing what survival really meant. And I whispered to myself, tomorrow, I will show him the truth. Not just survival, not just strength. The truth about who his father really is. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the trees. The fire I had built still glowed faintly. Jason and his friends stirred, their faces brighter now, comforted by food and warmth. For a brief moment, I saw gratitude in their eyes. But Jason was different. He stretched, stood tall, and smirked. "Well, thanks, Dad. But let's be honest. Without me leading, these guys would have panicked way earlier. I kept their spirits up. You just did some old tricks." The words cut deep. After everything I had done, after proving myself, he still couldn't let go of his pride. His friends fell silent, sensing tension. I stood up slowly, locking eyes with him. "Old tricks?" I repeated, my voice steady. Jason, last night, you would have frozen to death without those old tricks. You and your friends wouldn't have lasted another day without fire, food, or shelter. Jason crossed his arms, scoffing. Yeah, maybe. But survival isn't everything. Strength is about leading, about showing confidence. That's why they follow me. His friends shifted uncomfortably, glancing at me. I could see doubt creeping into their faces. I stepped closer. Confidence without skill is arrogance. And arrogance gets people killed. Jason's smirk faltered. His voice wavered, but he tried to recover. Don't talk like you know everything, Dad. You've been. What? A quiet man, working, sitting at home? You don't know what it's like to actually lead. The boys gasped softly, waiting for my response. I clenched my fists, but my voice remained calm, cold, and sharp. You think leadership is about shouting louder than everyone else? About mocking the people who raised you? Jason, I didn't stay quiet because I was weak. I stayed quiet because I was strong enough to hold back. Jason's jaw tightened. His pride was cracking. I could feel it. I took a step back and gestured toward the forest. You think you're strong? Prove it. Go. Survive one day out there alone. No fire, no food, no help. Jason froze. His eyes darted to the trees, dark and endless. His friends looked at him nervously, whispering. For the first time, he hesitated. I leaned in, my voice like a blade. Or admit that you mocked the one man who kept you alive. His face reddened. He wanted to say yes. He wanted to prove me wrong. But fear crept into his expression. One of his friends muttered, Jason, maybe don't. Your dad knows what he's doing. Another added quietly, honestly, I trust him more than you right now. Jason snapped at them. Shut up. You're supposed to back me up. But the damage was done. His so-called followers were slipping away. I stared at him, unblinking. You see, Jason, strength isn't about being feared. It's about being respected. And respect is earned, not demanded. I pointed to the boys. They followed you because they didn't know better. But after last night, they saw who truly kept them alive. Not their loud leader. Their quiet, mocked, forgotten father. Jason's lips trembled. His pride shattered in front of his friends. The forest went quiet. Only the crackle of the fire and the rustle of leaves filled the air. Jason sat down slowly, his shoulders slumped, his face pale. He looked like a boy again, not the arrogant leader he pretended to be. No one spoke for a long time. His friends avoided his gaze, their respect shifting toward me without a single word, and I knew. This was just the beginning. Jason sat there, silent, his pride shattered. His friends avoided his gaze, the respect he once demanded slipping from his hands. I looked at him, my son, my blood, and though part of me wanted to stay angry, another part remembered the boy who once held my hand, who once trusted me with his entire world. The silence was heavy, but necessary. Finally, Jason's voice cracked. Dad, I don't know what happened to me. I thought being strong meant being above you, making fun of you, proving I didn't need you. Tears welled in his eyes. His friends looked shocked. Jason buried his face in his hands. But last night, when that storm hit, when the forest felt like it was swallowing us alive, I was terrified. You weren't. You saved us. And his voice broke completely. I mocked the only man who never abandoned me. I placed a hand on his shoulder. Jason, strength is not in muscles or loud words. Strength is waking up every morning after your mother passed and raising you alone. Strength is working 2 jobs so you'd never go hungry. Strength is sacrificing dreams so your child can dream bigger. My voice grew firmer. True strength, son, is not about putting others down. It's about lifting them up even when they don't respect you. especially when they don't respect you. His friends listened in complete silence, their eyes glistening. Jason finally looked up at me, his face streaked with tears. I was wrong, Dad. So wrong. You're the strongest man I've ever known. And the worst part? I hurt you. The man who gave me everything. I treated like nothing. I squeezed his shoulder gently. Admitting your mistake. That takes courage, too. Don't waste this moment. Learn from it. Grow from it. That's all I want. His friends stepped forward. One of them said softly, Mr. Harris, we've never seen anyone like you. You're the real leader. You're the kind of man we should all look up to. Another added, Jason's lucky to have you as a father. We all wish we had that kind of strength at home. Jason lowered his head, ashamed but also deeply moved. For the first time, Jason hugged me, not out of obligation, not for show, but with trembling sincerity. I'm sorry, Dad. I promise. I'll never disrespect you again. I want to be worthy of being your son. I held him tight, my voice breaking. And I just want my boy back. The one I raised with love, not arrogance. The forest around us seemed calmer now, the weight between us lifting. I turned to all of them and spoke the final words of truth. Never mistake silence for weakness. Never mistake humility for fragility. True strength is quiet, steady, and unshakable. And one day, when life tests you, you'll remember this. The boys nodded. Jason wiped his tears, determination replacing his shame. When we returned from that camping trip, things were never the same. Jason was quieter, more thoughtful. He started helping me around the house, asking questions about my past, about the survival skills I had hidden for so long. And slowly, respect grew where arrogance once lived. Looking back, I don't regret the pain. Because sometimes, pain is the only teacher. My son mocked me as weak, but the forest showed him the truth, that the father he belittled was the man who held his entire world together. If you believe that respect is worth more than arrogance, share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful, emotional stories like this.